Not too sure. I'm really horrible with these names. Yeah, so I started watching the anime of this with a friend of mine, and surprisingly, I pretty much like it as far as it's as far as I've seen. It's an amazing anime, and hope it continues and have lots of episodes. I'm not too sure about it. So, yeah, my friend told me that there was a game to it too, I think she said. So I looked for it, downloaded it, and here we go. So, I already played like a little bit of it to, you know, see what's if it worked, or you know what's, you know, the gist of it and stuff like that. So it's pretty good. So yeah, let's continue. Let's go.
初めからよ。
Intense sunlight blazes down on the road as if to declare the arrival of summer. The burning asphalt radiates heat, mixing with the scent of the tide to form a thick, muggy atmosphere. When the weather's clear in summer like this, you get guys who lose their heads in the heat. Sexual assaults, robberies, all the way up to homicides. I don't have time to list the variety of crimes committed by morons with baked brains. As a result, at times like these, the police inevitably get very wary of suspicious types. It was about 10 minutes ago that I realized I'd been mistaken for one of those heat-stroke adult sorts.
名前が風見雄二。住所は山梨県大里郡。
Sweat pouring from his forehead as he examines my license. The policeman in front of me takes a glance at the large backpack I'm carrying, then continues the background check.
山梨から来たのか、あんた。
Yes.
この町には何の用事で？大荷物背負ってどこかへ行く途中かい？
I told you this 10 minutes ago. I'm moving. This luggage is everything I own.
それじゃあ、引っ越し先の住所は？
Like I said, I don't have one yet. The answer's not going to change no matter how many times you ask.
引っ越し先の住所も決まっていないのに引っ越してきたっていうのかい？君、何を隠しているの？そろそろ本当のことを教えてよ。
Where did you come from? Where are you going? What are you planning to do there? Depending on the context, these could be fairly philosophical questions, but as far as the police inquiries go, they're pretty run-of-the-mill. From their perspective, anyone running around without clear-cut business is by default a criminal of some sort. Let alone someone like me carrying around suspicious bulky luggage. It's as good as guaranteed they'd stop me. That is their job, I suppose, since this scene acts as a crime deterrent through its visibility. It's not an entirely wasted effort. But unfortunately, I don't have all day to play along. I drop a glance towards the digital watch I'm wearing around my left wrist. Sorry, but I'm keeping someone waiting. I really can't spare any more time from hanging out with bored cops.
バカにしてるのか?
A bored police force is a proof that the city's at peace. Take it as a compliment. Inexplicably taking offense at my tone, the policeman clicks his tongue in irritation and tosses my license back.
じゃあ、風見さん。悪いけど、お背中の荷物の中身確認させてもらっていいかな？
I refuse.
どうして？何か見られたくないものでも入ってるの？刃物とか持ってない？
I don't rely on blades. Policy of mine. Look, are you really telling me to unpack all this on the spot? It'll take an hour at least. 30 minutes to take it all out, 30 minutes to stuff it back in.
じゃあ立ち話もなんだし、警察署に行こうか。冷たいお茶ぐらい出すからさ。そこでゆっくりお話を聞かせてよ。
I just told you I don't have the time. I can't accept voluntary questioning. I know you can just back down in this situation, but if I say I'll head over there myself later, could we wrap this up for now?
そんな都合のいいこと言って、そのまましらばっくれる気だろ。だったらせめて自宅の連絡先を教えてよ。
As I've explained, I'm in the middle of a move. I vacated my old place so I don't have an address.
じゃあご両親の住んでいる実家の住所だ。まさか両親もホームレスだとは言うまい？
I don't have any parents. No siblings or relatives either. They're all dead.
本当に？やっぱり何か隠してるんじゃないの？
This is going nowhere.
警察署まで来てくれれば無駄な問答をしなくて済むんだけどね。今パトカー呼ぶから少し待っててくれる？
Then at least let me call the person I'm supposed to be meeting. At this rate, they'll be waiting all day.
そりゃ構わないけど、相手は誰？お友達？
I'm not going to tell you that.
言えないような相手なのか？
It's your mother. We had an appointment at the hotel tonight.
は？
I was keeping you out of the goodness of my heart. You dragged it out of me. So don't blame me when your parents get divorced and your happy home is shattered.
バカにしてるのか？え？
About 30 meters away from where we're talking, someone screams. A desperate cry follows within seconds. A woman sits collapsed on the street, stretching out her hand. Her high heels lie on the ground, knocked off her feet by the sudden fall. Just about halfway between us, there's a man in a flashing Hawaiian shirt, running in this direction.
警察か。
Although the thief flinches for a moment at the sight of the policeman's uniform, after a quick check for any inconvenient side streets, he barrels onward.
どけこら！
Brandishing the stolen bag menacingly, his hand violently gestures, out of my way.
止まれ！止まりなさい！
The cop is completely flustered. He's quite clearly unaccustomed to this sort of situation. While he's panicking, the distance between us and the thief shrinks with surpassing swiftness.
邪魔だ！
The man runs in a straight line toward a breakthrough to freedom. I happen to be standing directly in the middle of his path.
どけっつってんだろうが！
As he prepares to strike with the bag, I ascertain the movement of his shoulder and arm from the first sign of motion, and hit his wrist sharply just as he begins to swing. The man's arm instantly stiffens and loses all momentum. His eyes pop wide open in shock. I immediately grab the collar of the Hawaiian shirt he's wearing and firmly draw him toward me. Before the man offer resistance to my pull, I smoothly reverse and use my body weight to shove against him. When pushed just as they've begun to brace themselves against being pulled, anyone except the genuine expert is going to be thrown off balance. Nice shirt. Where'd you buy it? Shock spreads across the man's face as his knees buckle against his rope. I try to gain a chokehold using my grip on the neck of his shirt, but... The man promptly draws his head back and shifts his body to the side, preventing me from landing a hold on his neck. Although I expected as much from a glance at his build, it seems like he's somewhat experienced in judo. But in this case, you would have been better off trying to decisively tackle. Rotating around the purse stance in the opposite direction of his slide, I yank his right arm upwards with both hands. In one movement, I circle to his back. Next, pull back on the opponent's wrist and elbow and pin him to the ground. This is just basic Aikido, by the way. Hey now, you got your priorities all wrong. Before worrying about me, you should kill the guy who sold you that shirt. Perhaps unconsciously, the man's now empty left hand desperately slaps at the asphalt. While holding the thief pin down, I quickly shoot it and look behind me. Don't just stand there!
Oh!
The policeman jerks up straight in response to my angry shout, taking a pair of handcuffs from the pouch around his waist. He runs over to restrain the criminal. The purse snatcher seems to have resigned himself to his fate, and doesn't offer any pointless resistance. He accepts his red hand and rests his staff decisively, then sits quietly on the ground with his head hung as the policeman rages to back up. Apparently they weren't too far off, as the siren approaches in no time. Two policemen get out of their arriving cruiser and push the criminal into the backseat. As I'm quietly watching the scene in perfect passivity, the policeman from earlier runs over.
犯人確保の協力を感謝します。
I'll pass on the letter of thanks, so how about letting me move on?
そうもいかんのですよ。宣告の件も含めて、できれば改めて署でお話を聞かせていただきたいのですが。
Figured as much. Shaking my head in exasperation, I silently rebuke myself. Should have just left it alone. As the policeman pushes on my back, I glance at my wristwatch and informs me that I'm already 5 minutes late for my meeting.
なあ、もうそろそろ話してくれないか。
30 minutes have passed since I was brought to the interrogation room. Familiar as a place where criminals break into flop, sweat, and TV dramas, I'm sitting on a cheap foldable pipe chair, my arms folded in perfect silence.
そうやって黙ってちゃいつまで経っても帰れないぞ。誰かと待ち合わせをしているんだろ。さっさと話して終わらせた方がいいんじゃないか。
Instead of responding, I close my eyes, a silent statement indicating that I have absolutely no intention of opening my mouth. The detective clicks his tongue in exasperation at my attitude. I've got a pretty fair idea of what he'll be doing next.
やましいことがないなら話せるだろう。いつまでだんまりを決め込むつもりだ。
The sound of something being struck, an even louder attempt at intimidation. This is the point where a timid guy would be jumping in the seat with his eyes wide open, or maybe staring at the floor and quivering. As for me, my eyes are still shut and my arms are still folded quietly. My mind is a total blank. I've been accustomed to adults shouting at me like this since I was a child. Following the threat stage, the next step would be for him to grip my hair and jolt me back and forth. But I'm dealing with an official authority group here. I should get off without direct violence this time. Not to say that they won't pull out the old TV cliches and harass me by shining a desk lamp in my eyes, or something of the sort. I can roughly translate the detective's sigh. Goddamn kids these days. I gently open my eyes in order to sneak a look at the disgusted face. Oh. The detective sitting in front of me seems to be challenging the Guinness World Record for the most dramatic asymmetry between the left and the right sides of a human mouth. Or maybe he's just scowling. When I let out a snort of laughter in response to the unexpectedly pleasant sight, the detective scratches his head violently and glares at me.
あのな兄ちゃん、誰に入れ知恵されたか知らないが、警察で黙秘したって何も得はしないぞ。
It won't gain you anything, but you won't lose anything either, except your time. I turn my gaze to the clock on the wall of the sweatbox. An hour has already passed since the scheduled time for my meeting.
なんとか言ったらどうなんだ。
The detective strikes the desk with excellent comic timing. The best part is the way he knocks his ashtray off the table every time he does this.
もう、なんなんだよお前は。
His tone distinctly fed up. He stoops down to pick the plastic tray off the floor. Kazumi Yusi, occupation, student.
だから、そりゃもう何度も聞いたっつんだよ。調べたよ。山梨から来たんだろ。過去の犯罪歴はなし。歩道歴も交通違反もなし、何かを表彰されるようなこともなし、ここまで綺麗な懲罰なしってのは変だろう。まるで誰かが細工したみてえに真っ白なんだよお前は。お前は一体何者なんだ。
Kazumi Yuji, occupation, student.
なんだそりゃ。警察に捕まったらそれしか言うなって誰かに言われてんのか。お前どっかのテロリストか。
Kazumi Yuji, occupation, student.
もういい、黙れ。
First, it's say something. Now, shut up. Talk about heart, please. Our capricious detective scowls yet again and scratches his head. Flakes off dandruff drift grandly through the air. Based on his thoroughly wrinkled shirt and heavy stubble, I'd say he hasn't been home in days.
なあ、頼むよ。こっちの事情も考えてくれよ。
Another sigh. It's enough to make me want to heave myself. Oh, oneself. Because we both take our work seriously, it seems like we're stuck going around in circles.
さっきのひったくり事件の取り調べも進まないし、厄介なの捕まえたよまったく。
Just as we roughly conclude this exchange of one-sided bitterness and mutual glaring, there's a well-timed knock at the door, and the sound of it being unlocked.
はい。ああ、お疲れ様です。
A slightly plump elderly detective enters the room. Given the respectful tone of the detective I've been chatting with, he's probably a superior of some sort.
どうかしましたか？はい。ええ。
After a quick glance in my direction, the elderly detective whispers something into the younger man's ear. Before long, the younger detective turns towards me with a decidedly nonplussed expression.
釈放だとお疲れさん。
Why now, all of a sudden?
それはこっちから聞いてくれ。それじゃあな。
With those parting words, the young detective leaves the room. The elderly detective watches him go and then faces me with a greasy smile.
いやー、すみませんでしたね、風見さん。こちらに連絡が行っていなかったようで、先ほどようやっとあなたの身元保証人の方と連絡が取れた次第でして。
The detective stares at me with eyes like a dead fish.
市ヶ谷の関係者なら最初からそう言っていただかないと。
If you'd known I was from Ichigaya from the start, wouldn't you have thrown me in jail, stripped me naked, and sprayed me down with the hose?
まさかご冗談を。うちは天下の桜だもんですよ。
Just to let you know, I'm nothing but a student. My work at Ichigaya is only a part-time cleaning job.
掃除ですか。なるほどね。うまいことおっしゃいますな。さすがはインテリさんの集まりだ。
In response to my words, the detective twists his mouth into something vaguely resembling a smile.
いやー、ですからね。そちらさんもそんなご事情ならば、もっと早く言っておいていただければよかったんですが。ご存知かと思いますが、上があれですから。いろいろとややこしくてね。
Sarcasm dripping from every pore of his body, the detective treats me with transparently and sincere courtesy. He's perfectly civil on a superficial level, but the atmosphere in here is growing increasingly unpleasant. The younger detective from before, hard as that he was, seems infinitely preferable. Did you inquire to Ichigaya about me?
いいえね。あなたのお名前をデータベースで検索させたんですがね。検索している最中に電話が鳴りまして、受話器を上げてみたら防衛省の特別の機関からのお電話でして、うちの犬がそちらで保護されていないかと聞きましてね。いや、驚きましたよ実際。うちは保健所じゃありませんからね。
That laugh though. Since you found my owner and confirmed that my leash is properly attached, I should be able to leave now, right?
どうぞご自由に。ああ、そうそう。あなたが今度転入なさる学園の学園長からもこちらに連絡がありましたよ。
That's so.
なかなかいらっしゃらないからと近隣の署に片っ端から連絡を入れたそうですよ。おかげでうちの所長も会議の途中で電話に引っ張られたようでして、散々闇を言われたと言っておりました。
Where's my backpack?
お預かりした荷物は玄関に出してありますので、そちらで。なんでしたらうちの車でお送りしましょうか。
You're not getting funds from public taxes in order to chauffeur bums like me around, are you? I'll walk. After I'm urged out of the door by the old man, the young detective appears from the rear, carrying the backpack they had taken from me earlier.
とんでもない重さだな、これは。一体何が入ってるんだ？
Bit of a tough question. I guess you could say my life.
ギャグだとしたら出来は悪いぞ。
That wasn't really what I was going for.
まあ、そんなことはどうでもいい。ちょっと。
Dropping the backpack next to me, the detective lets out a slight sigh. Thanks for lugging it out here. Pretty heavy, isn't it?
仕事で柔道やってるような人間に言う言葉じゃないな。田舎の警察とはいえ、その辺は仕込まれてる。
True. Guess it's natural for policemen. Sorry. The detective smiled wryly.
なあ、お前、埋め立て地の学生なんだってな。
I'm wearing the school uniform. You can see it at a glance.
制服が着られているって感じだがな。
We clasped my shoulder as we passed each other.
気をつけてな。いろんな意味で。
With those parting words, he heads back into the police station. Guess I don't make a convincing student yet. I'm wearing deep blue slacks and a short-sleeved dress shirt, as well as a dark red and yellow striped necktie. Excluding my somewhat longish hair, I should be the very image of a student. I guess it's a little difficult turning into something like that all of a sudden. But it's probably precisely because this is difficult that I decided to give it a try. For a while, I myself didn't understand why I asked for this, but now I think I have a faint grasp on the reason. I wanted to become something I couldn't understand, something that I wasn't. At the moment I've done nothing but smooth down my edges a bit. Perhaps later on I'll become a student on the inside as well. The sun had been climbing upward earlier, has now finally reached its zenith. The temperature keeps on rising and sweat oozes from my skin. I was pretty sure she'd pick me up, but Sensing a present, I lower my gaze from the sun. My eyes roll, well accustomed to the high contrast lighting, project a human from in silhouette for only the briefest of moments before the details fade in.
お勤めご苦労様。